All right, so this step we're going to take, and we're going to take each bearing and we're going to connect it to the very end right here. So you want to select the outermost edge of the bearing, the edge that faces, or that should be in line with this face right here, and then you want to select that. Let's circle on the axle, and it should be good. If you have this offset issue with the angle, you do offset, rotate about Z, 30 degrees. And there you go. You can go back to the slides now, or you can listen to talk a little more and explain about how all this works. So basically, what shaft collars do is, notice the screw right here? It's literally a clamp. It will clamp down on the axle to hold it in place. It'll use the friction to hold to prevent it from falling off. It's not foolproof. I think I've seen quite a few videos of shaft collars popping off. Whether it be on an intake, whether it be on something that moves super duper fast. Um, but yeah, it's not 100% foolproof, but it's really, really effective. And then, yeah, essentially what it does is it prevents anything from moving. It basically prevents anything from moving on one side. So the wheel right now, you'll notice, it can actually move between here, right? Between here and here, the wheel can actually move freely. I can kind of picture it. There's section view 2, which I explained a little bit in the last video. You'll notice that, that between here and here, right? So this is the axle, this is the wheel. There is nothing stopping the wheel from just moving over and going there. We're gonna make a spacer. We might not make a spacer due to time reasons, but you would add a spacer here. You don't need a shaft collar, just a spacer is fine to cover this space. And so what's it called? The wheel can't move. The other way of locking that we usually do to like locking the ends of axles is actually inserting like a, not sure if it's a spacer or I think it might be called a washer. I'm not sure in this context what it's called, but point of it is we basically have a giant cylindrical disc that's relatively thin that we place on the end, right? And then it has hole in the middle, and then it's like solid metal around it. It's not super thick, and then we place a screw through here because this is actually threaded. The inside of this axle is threaded, and we do that it takes the place of a shaft collar. I'm not completely sure about the reliability of it, but what I do know is it is much more space saving because instead of the wheel remember we pushed the wheel inward a little bit. We don't have to do that now. Instead, um, it's just a screw head and we'll call it a washer that has to point outside the axle a little bit, so it gives you more room on the axle itself. So like for our intake last year, that's what we had to do quite a bit, is using that technique. I think most of our robot uses that technique, if I'm not mistaken. But it'll be pretty easy to get used to. So yeah, that's majority of this step done. Again, repeat for the other sides. Just make sure that you are using the outside face, right? This face and that face should be uh, planar to each other, normal to each other. Whereas on the other side right here, it should be this side, this face, this face. So CAD will make you have to think more, I guess you say intuitively or like geometrically. Like in your head, you can kind of picture it moving around. But yeah,